You're listening to KGPC 96.9 FM in Oakland and streaming online at www.kgpc969.org. Welcome to the President's Desk, where Laney College President Dr. Rudy Besikoff connects with students, Laney, and Peralta colleagues, as well as the Oakland community to discuss current events while offering a safe space for individuals to speak freely. This podcast is written and produced by Lorena Baldazzo, supported by Technical Director Felicia Bridges, and hosted by President Rudy Besikoff.
Thank you, Felicia. It's a beautiful day here in Oakland, California, as we gaze out to see our ever-distinctive Laney Tower, which greets those coming to our wonderful campus from Lake Merritt, Oakland Chinatown, downtown Oakland, West Oakland, East Lake, Fruitvale, Diamond, North Oakland, Adams Point, Central Oakland, East Oakland, the Oakland Hills, Montclair, and of course, Piedmont. I'm Rudy Besikoff, president of Laney College, a pillar that has been serving the greater Oakland community for nearly 65 years. And it's great that you are joining us for today's podcast number 4. We have a great show for you today as we welcome Gateway to College Program Director Dr. William Ramos Ochoa. Felicia Bridges is stepping in as show producer today as well, in addition to her regular role as technical editor here on 96.9 FM and home of the President's Podcast, KGPC. Felicia, how are you today?
I'm doing well, Rudy. How are you?
Good. Appreciate you stepping in again today for podcast number 4. And just wanted to maybe just take a moment to kind of acquaint our listeners with you today. So could you tell us, how long have you been with the district, be it district radio station or one of the colleges?
Right. I've been with the Peralta Community College District now. I'm going into my 5th year. So I've been here 5 years. I started as the public information officer at Berkeley City College, where I served there for almost 3 years. And then I came to the radio station, and I love it here. Been here now going into my 2nd year, and just happy to do what I love, which is a rarity sometimes these days.
How did you get there to doing what you love? What got you into the field of radio and or broadcasting?
When I first started, so originally when I went to college, I was a broadcast major. I went to UC Berkeley and was a mass communication major at UC Berkeley. But of course I started at Laney. And I moved from Laney and then onto UC Berkeley. And I got my degree in mass comm there, and also I double majored, got a degree in rhetoric. And from there, my first job was working at KABL Radio in San Francisco, the cable car radio station.
Okay.
And I was the assistant to public affairs director there, where basically I was bored to death. And I just answered telephones, and I might have done some show research, but it was before the days of the internet and so forth. So research wasn't necessarily that fun or easy. And from KABL, I went on to write for the Oakland Tribune. So I started as a copy person there, and then I worked my way up all the way to a staff writer. I wrote for the Oakland Tribune for about 5 years. And then they sold their masthead and left about 1,000 employees out on the street to find jobs. They got rid of everybody and just sold basically the name. And after that, I decided to go on and continue my education. And I went all the way to England and got a master's in art history, in critical conversation. And I ended up coming back. I was there in England for about 2 years, and then I came back.
Time abroad is special, isn't it?
Right, it is. I love it. I wouldn't change it for the world, and now I hope someday to retire somewhere else out of the country. And then I came back and found myself back at radio, where I was at KPFA in Berkeley. And I was there for about 8 years, and I worked in various departments. I was an engineer on the board there for both the news department and also just the regular broadcast. And I also worked in their subscriptions department, because KPFA is a nonprofit, and so they run by just donations, and so I help with getting the donations in. And I saw a job at the district, and that's how I ended up coming back.
You've climbed two ladders then, really, the print media and then also the spoken word media. Mm-hmm. So I've got to ask the question. I'm someone who's just getting started, want to get into the business. What advice would you give me as someone who's getting started, and having been there yourself?
Well, for someone who's getting started in radio, it's good to kind of have a good understanding of just how radio operation works. So what does it take to get your show onto the air? So it's not just speaking on the mic, but it's also having some understanding of the technology that's involved to getting you onto the air. I also would recommend is taking a speech class, or one thing that I also did is I got heavily involved in Toastmasters. And if you know anything about Toastmasters, sure, it just helps you to learn how to speak. And that will take out your speaking, some of the things that we employ to get us through conversations, like the ahs and ums, and some of the colloquialisms that we use, like and like, which I still struggle with. And then start creating a platform. Start in developing relationships on social media so people are interested in what you have to say, because that's also important too, that you have something interesting to say. And I think once you just start recording and getting your stuff out there, it's just a matter of moments. A bunch of somebodies will start listening to you.
Sound advice, and I'm sure that as those words are coming out of your mouth today, Felicia, we've got lots of people in the greater Oakland community signing up for communication studies classes. And
come on to Laney, that's where I started.
There you go. Excellent plug right there. And certainly I think today's guest is going to talk to us about pathways and getting started and success. And with that, I'd like to welcome Dr. William Ochoa, Director of the Laney College Gateway to College program. Gateway to College is a scholarship program that provides academically and economically disenfranchised Alameda County residents who are 16 to 20 years old with an opportunity to experience success in an academically rigorous, supportive, and safe environment as they pursue their high school diplomas and transition into college. Dr. Ochoa, welcome.
Thank you, President Besikoff. Thank you for having me.
Is it okay if I call you Will?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, and please call me Rudy. So we're really pleased to have you here today, and especially since you are actually a Laney College graduate yourself, and you returned to serve with us at Laney as a director, and just want to welcome you. I kind of gave the quick rundown about Gateway to College, but could you tell us more about the program? Tell us about Gateway.
Yeah, definitely. Gateway to College is a small program up in the A building right next to financial aid. There are our awesome neighbors up there. Kudos to the financial aid office. Shout out to them and everyone who works with me at the Gateway program. But more importantly, Gateway to College is an alternative high school program. We kind of work with two different institutions, meaning we work with Laney College, but we also work with our fun K-12 district, Oakland Unified School District. So we're a special program. We work with, as Rudy mentioned, at-risk students from Oakland Unified, more importantly, Alameda County. But what we do is actually we do something more special than that. And what I mean by that is because our students are non-traditional. They're mostly high school dropout students who probably have gone through a lot of trials and tribulations in their lives. Some of them don't have parents. Some of them have gone through so many things that they've had to grow up. Some of them, I really do believe they're 30 deep down inside in their souls. They probably are older than I am, figuratively speaking. But, I love all my students. I love my staff. Gateway to College is a special program that I would say should be around for generations to come. And what I mean by that is that it has created a special community within Laney where we're more than just a high school program. We're actually family, and that goes from the director, from the staff, to the students. So that's how I can explain Gateway in the sense of who we are.
Often when I go into interviews and talk to people, I feel like I'm asking about a museum that I've never seen the inside of. Yet Friday, when you had your completion ceremony and closing ceremony, and your graduates walked out in their caps and gowns. That was a special event. Could you tell our listeners a little bit about that and what went into it?
Oh yeah, definitely. So last Friday we had our first in-person hybrid graduation ceremony with Gateway students. We had about 12 graduates. I believe 9 of them showed up that day, but we still shouted out every single graduate that day. It was very family, community oriented, where we had it located at the bistro at the backside of the campus in the beautiful estuary side of the campus, where there's a beautiful lake. You can see some green, you can see trees. There's the garden that has been there since I was a student. So it was very community oriented. We had some grub, we had some wraps, so a little charcuterie board that our staff created.
It was great. It was delicious.
Thank you, Rudy. So it was very. I really enjoyed it. I think that we gave. I think the special part about that ceremony is not just congratulating graduates, but focusing on the theme of the ceremony, which was "It Takes a Village." So we started off with, bringing my story with my mother and kind of me graduating and becoming a doctor recently. And it just transitioned from my story to making the space open for the community and my students who just graduated to share their experiences and be able to kind of show that it's more than just yourself. It's a family. It's from staff to your personal family, to your dad, to your uncles, to your tias, even your dog, your cat who has been there as your emotional support animal. It's a collective. So I think that theme permeated throughout the whole program, throughout the whole event. And at the end, I think it was very special where we gave space for families to share out. And I remember one particular family member who essentially talked about their sister. I think that got me teared up. It actually helped me spread some crocodile tears a little bit, try to hold my emotions. But I think that the overall it was just very warm and welcoming.
No, absolutely true. And I was very impressed by the fact that it was a Friday afternoon ceremony, and we had employees from beyond the Gateway to College program coming out to congratulate graduates, and you could see the theme of it taking a village really present in the closing ceremonies, certainly in the faces of your graduates as well as their families and our greater Laney community that turned out for the event. You touched a little bit on your story. You talked about the student stories a little bit. Tell us a little bit about your story and just what got you to Laney College and then what got you later into the role of director of Gateway to College.
Definitely, Rudy. It could be a long story. It might take hours for me to explain my full story and how I got to be the Gateway to College director, but I think where I can start is I am from the Bay Area. I grew up out here in the Bay. I'm born in San Francisco, actually San Francisco General Hospital. My mom always tells me a joke where she says that in her womb I was sitting down and that I'm destined to become a president. Knock on wood, I don't think I want to, just because of the social pressure. And I think I have, I push back a lot with just my own morals and ethics of who I am as a leader. So maybe, but shout out to my mom. Since I'm here at the podcast first time.
There's always time, Will.
Thank you, Rudy. Thank you. But, I just want to start there. I grew up in the Bay. I grew up in San Francisco. But a big chunk of my life, I actually grew up in Oakland, particularly East Oakland, where on East 25th. And, that's where I kind of grew up. I went to Franklin Elementary School. I went to the OUSD district. I attended... From Franklin, I went to Enna Brewer, and then from Enna Brewer, then I went to Union City. So I've been moving around a lot, throughout my life. My mom has always been a single parent, struggling to support me and my bigger brother. And she also, tried her best to give us the best life we can have during that time. She, something that me and my mother, I think we actually built a stronger relationship now that I'm older, because I had some reservations with me and her, but I think we're in a better position now, where I actually The first, I know this is kind of going off a tangent, but I think it's important for my students and whoever's listening, because I think it's a part of the story is me and my mom having a deeper relationship where I finally told her that I loved her, I think about a year ago, and I never did. And the reason why I bring that up is because, she chose some decisions in her life that pushed her away from us, and where she was incarcerated due to doing certain things. And that really affected my time growing up here in the Bay Area, where we didn't have a mother around. Me and my brother, we had to grow around uncles and friends and cousins and try to figure out who I am as a Latino here in Oakland, and this whole identity crisis that comes with that. That I think that's a big part of my story. But just kind of fast forwarding that piece, going into my teenage years, 13 or 17, I actually grew up in Mexico, in Sinaloa, Mexico, in northern Mexico, where I actually, the irony of it is people say, people cross the border to the United States. I actually crossed the border to go to Mexico, being a United States citizen. And I actually worked in the fields in Mexico, picking tomatoes from 13 to 17, and at the same time I worked as a janitor, cleaning machines and stuff at the tomato factory. So I worked really crazy hours. I actually have tomatoes tattooed on my arm, where it's like an anchor, and it actually has pedagogy on there, because I think that the science of teaching is extended more than just an academic term, but it's also the teaching of your culture and your experiences and your background is so essential in this work. And just kind of bringing that whole thing of where I grew up, right, is Mexico taught me so many things. I was depressed. I was going through so much. And I think that time, during my 13 and 17 age, I learned a lot about myself. And I think not going to high school, and even in Mexico, I didn't go to school, kind of just helped me actualize this idea. It's like, you know what? If I can survive this, I can survive anything. So during that time, I turned 17, wanting to go 18. I didn't want to come back to the States. And this is why my mom is such a big piece. She actually went around the town where my mother grew up, which is El Cubilete. And she actually had my bags packed in the car. And I was trying to hide from her because I did not want to leave. I promise you. That's a real story. And to this day, I was crying going to the bus. I was telling my mom, I don't want to leave. And she's like, mijo, me lo vas a agradecer. You're going to thank me later. You're going to be a big person, and it breaks my heart to see you go. But I think it's the best for you. And I came back to East Oakland, where with my brother, I didn't have no high school credits. I was 17, turning 18 years old. And I went to the district at OUSD, and I think her name was Miss McGee, I believe, from the district. She referred me to go and actually get my GED, where I actually went to Next Step Learning Center. Shout out to Next Step. They're still around, and it's actually run by two sisters from the Holy Names. And they're connected with Holy Names University. And I basically went there, with not an idea of where I wanted to go. And they actually told me, it's like, hey, Will, come in, we'll take care of you. I was 17, for a GED, you have to be 18 years old.
Right.
And they essentially told me, it's like, hey, I took the practice test when I went there, and I aced them all. And they're like, Will, you can easily go to college. And we have a partnership with Laney, where while you wait to turn 18 years old, you can take classes here at Laney College to get those college credits while we wait for you to take that test as soon as you turn 18, right? So in that time, what happened is I attended Laney when I was 17 years old. I was probably concurrently enrolled student before it was concurrent enrollment, before it was a big thing.
Sure.
And it was just crazy. It was a crazy time.
So, Will, quick question. At that time, when you started attending Laney, what were your aspirations? Where did you want to go?
At that time, I wanted to be a business major. I went to Laney for an AA in business, specifically finance. And yeah, that's what I majored in initially here at Laney. And kind of going back to the story, and it ties into the AA degree with the business. I started attending Laney for my AA in business. And I essentially took my first classes with actually Chris Wiedenbach, who's still an English professor and is part of the department. I believe he's the department chair for next year.
Yes, he is next year's department chair for English, Chris Wiedenbach. That's correct.
Yeah, Chris Wiedenbach was my first English professor at Laney, and he's still there. And now I collaborate with the English department with Chris. So I think that's really, really dope.
Tell me a little bit about the collaboration you're doing.
Oh yeah, definitely. How we collaborate with the English department, particularly when I first started, Chris was there was a transition department chair, but during that time, Chris was the department chair. He actually helps with the faculty, or particularly the English department with Chris. He actually helped us select courses for Gateway, and what I mean by that is selecting like the English 1A course, which is the college level English, and a lower level English course where students who from Gateway can take English 2, which is like the third year of English, to take, I believe it's English 2 1A, and then transition into English 1A, which is the fourth year of English, so they can complete their high school credits.
Yeah,
so that's how we collaborate.
And that's the class that transfers to most four-year colleges, the composition and reading class.
Correct.
Fast forward a bit, the opportunity to be a Gateway to College director is out there. What led you to apply to it? Give us a little background behind that.
Oh yeah, definitely. As a Gateway to College director, you play many hats. It's not just the idea of working with your staff. No, obviously the traditional setting of a director is managing the program, making sure that enrollment is up, supporting your staff with problems or issues that may happen with students. But more importantly, I play a role of a social worker sometimes. I play a role of a dad, of a cousin, of an uncle. It really depends on day by day. Sometimes my day just goes with just checking in with students and parents. Some days goes with going into meetings and advocating for my students, advocating for my program, making sure we have proper funding to make sure that we can innovate and impact our students in a bigger sense. Just like I mentioned earlier, this whole idea of my personal life, I connect with my students. So I think
imagine.
Thank you. So I think as a director, it's more than just me being this type of traditional manager, but it's more about being a community leader. And that's what I think my role is as the director for Gateway. And just adding on more context to that is sometimes I have to drive to their house and meet with their parents, and maybe sometimes the parents don't like it. But hey, whatever it takes to get these students in that seat and make sure they pass their high school diploma, that's what I'll do as the director. So I think in the bigger scheme of things, that's kind of what my job is make impact in an institutional level, collaborate with OUSD and Peralta and Laney in particular, work with my constituents at the college, make sure my staff has someone to hear, to be there to listen to them, to hear them, to make sure that they have safe space to share any stressors. One thing that I always tell them, it's okay to not like me. It's okay to talk to your peers about me, about things that you don't like, because I think that's a healthy environment. As long as you come and share with me things that I can improve as a leader to make your job easier, because it is a community of practice. It is a community. And I always stress that with my staff. I stress that with my students as well.
I've had the pleasure of visiting the Gateway to College space on the second floor of the A building. And for our listeners, if you go to the Laney College where the flagpole is, look at our campus and then look to the left. The A building is there, and then just walk up the stairs and you too can reach the welcoming space of the Gateway to College Center. As I said, I had the pleasure to visit you and your team there. One thing that comes to mind, though, is that space wasn't necessarily a given, especially 2 years ago, with the global pandemic and then the closure of our campus for the most part. How did you cope during that time? How did your students cope, more importantly?
Oh, man, that was a tough time. First thing I want to say, I started about a week before COVID started. So
I remember.
Yeah, right. I think it was February, right around that time, and it was a tough time. I was going through a crisis myself and just trying to figure out what works, what doesn't work. There was a huge paradigm shift with how we support Gateway students during that time. So most of the time during COVID, it was more about just learning and just figuring out what actually works for Gateway students. There was no easy answer. Most of the time, it was just sampling certain services, sampling new things. Sometimes we really failed. Sometimes some new, like, let's just say, this time let's do some more weekly interventions where we walk students into different departments on campus. The more we did that, the less students showed up. So it was like, okay, should we do less of these? Should we do more outside external field trips, right? So then we started doing more field trips at four-year colleges. Then we saw more students trickling in on campus, right? As soon as we were able to come on campus, we knew that our students weren't successful only doing online support. So as soon as we had the opportunity, like, hey guys, I think we're starting to transition back in person. We started, coming in person, doing hybrid learning format where our faculty started coming in person. We had services in person, and at the same time, we also ran support services online. And I think that's something that worked. but it didn't fully work. So we just kept like pivoting with different type of like interventions and such. And now I think we're at a point where we're honing down on success. We actually increased our success rates from fall to spring semester, and we've actually maintained our enrollment throughout this whole COVID pandemic. And I think that goes with the hard work of my staff and the students. I want to give a shout out to Michael Cruz, who is our engagement specialist, who has been essentially our right hand person throughout this whole pandemic, but also the rest of our staff, our resource specialists, Mara Martinez, Terry Watson, Omar Esteban Ramos, our intervention specialist, Janelle Allen, also who else? Myra Murillo, our counselor as well, who has been with us through thick and thin, clearing up prerequisites, clearing up transcripts for students throughout the semester, calling her at night sometimes, like, hey, we need the student graduated. Do you think there's a way we can work this out? Parents have been calling us, and, it's just been a crazy experience. And I think that what this did, actually, it helped me and my team bond better. I don't think I've ever been in a position, even as a director, maybe I'm biased, but I really feel like me and my staff are like family now. And we've created an environment where they can share anything, and I think COVID forced us to be more personal.
Yeah, certainly appreciate the work of your team, and it's been evident just in all of the engagement that's taken place. If I'm a high school student who's maybe struggling and I hear about this program, I've heard a lot about personal attention, I've heard about campus visits, I've heard about interventions. What would be some other services that, if I'm a parent of a potential student or a student, what might I be receiving in terms of services? Could you tell me more about those?
Yeah, definitely. I think a highlight that that we as a program do is the family component. We treat every single student with respect. We don't treat them as just a traditional high school student. As soon as you come into that door, best bet that you'll have the best support that we can give you, regardless of where you're at in your academic journey. And if you don't come to class, we will call you. We will call your mom. We will call your cat, your dog, your goldfish. We would even send a pigeon to your house with a note tied onto us, hey, come to school. I'll even drive to your house and pick you up. That's something that I want to make sure people know
about.
But
Will, if I'm looking at the program and I'm saying college is expensive, let's say I'm saying that, does Gateway support it in that aspect?
Yes, Rudy. Our program is free for students. So if you're a student that wants to go to a different type of program where you can get accelerate your graduation for high school, we offer concurrent enrollment classes. Students can graduate faster if they take college classes.
For our listeners, just want to clarify, concurrent enrollment class is something where a high school student actually comes to our campus and takes classes on campus. Correct? It's part of the program.
Yes,
yeah.
That's our bread and butter, actually. The whole program is a concurrent enrollment program where we bring the high school students in, we accelerate them through the college courses that we have on campus, from our foundation courses to the courses that are general college courses, and it's all free. We pay for the textbooks, we pay for the field trips. Our staff is there. Next semester, we're going to have a whole bunch of new technology as well that we're collaborating with Bala, who's the IT director on campus right now. So there's going to be a lot of fun stuff. So please send your students out to us. So trust me, they will not regret it.
Excellent. Will, it's really been a pleasure today just visiting with you. I certainly know some things as president about the Gateway to College program. Always my pleasure to speak at your closing ceremonies as well as your kickoff events when I've been there. And please keep up the great work you're doing. And as far as that forecast about you being a president someday, let's certainly keep in touch and keep talking on that front. Felicia, it was great to welcome Will today, wasn't it?
Absolutely. Your story is amazing. The work that you are doing sounds fantastic. Keep up the good work is what I say.
Thank you
guys
for having me.
No, it's certainly been our pleasure, and I can't believe we're already at the end of podcast number 4.
Number 4.
Wow, we're on a roll here, and certainly Felicia, along the way, thank you for kind of taking this effort in hand and making it go. To our listeners, summer school starts next week on Monday. Looking forward to that launch of classes as it comes along. And with that said, we certainly look forward to our next podcast. And with Felicia, if you could take us home, that'd be great.
Absolutely. Thank you for tuning in to The President's Desk, a podcast hosted by Laney College President, Dr. Rudy Besikoff. If you have a suggestion for a future show, please email show producer Lorena Baldazzo at laneypio at peralta.edu.